Hey guys, welcome back to World of Tanks. My name is Bruce and today we take a look at tips and tricks for beginners. So, if you're new to the game, then this video will give you basic knowledge that you need to know in order to improve your gameplay. This time we will not talk about gameplay, but about all the rest that you have to know in order to avoid a painful gaming experience. If you're interested in more reviews and gameplay, go to YouTube and search for World of Tanks with Bruce to get all of my videos, or click on the subscribe button. And now let's go. Okay, so the first thing I would like to talk about is settings, because I do think that there are some important settings that you have to use in order to improve your gameplay. So if you go to settings and then to general, the first and most important thing is that you need to activate all of the view range indicators on your minimap. So everything should selected right here. So the green one is your current view range, the white one is the maximum spotting range. Sometimes they are coincident, meaning that you have reached your maximum spotting range of 445 meters. The yellow one is the draw circle and the blue one is the proximity spotting circle, meaning that whoever enters the blue circle will be spotted no matter if you have line of sight, and you will also be spotted. There used to be an update not long ago which gave you the possibility to show the proximity spotting circle, and this one should also be selected in order to have full information on the minimap. Alright, the next important setup is right here, and that is enable dynamic camera. This is what I have deselected, and then horizontal stabilization in sniper mode is selected. And right here I have a short video of the differences. So on the left hand side, dynamic camera on top is selected, and horizontal stabilization in sniper mode on the left side on the bottom is not selected, and vice versa on the right side. So I recommend to play the settings on the right hand side, because it will make the chance of hitting the enemy much easier for you in the game. This is what I recommend. Alright, the next thing I recommend is the sniper mode zoom level. This also got introduced recently in the game, and I recommend to select it on ×2, because the greater the distance between you and your opponent is, the more time you have to zoom in. However, if the opponent is close, very close to you, then you don't have time to change the zoom level. So this will give you the opportunity that you will always use ×2, and ×2 is the preferred option if you are if you're engaged in a close range fight, and so you don't lose any time to zoom to select the correct zoom level in order to hit the weak spots of your enemy. If the enemy is further away, then you just have the time to zoom into let's say ×8 or ×16 or even ×25 in order to try to penetrate the weak spots of your opponent. And obviously, as you can see, I have selected the enable ×16 and ×25 settings. All right, I think those are the most important settings. There are some some battle notifications that you can select. But this is like basically your own choice. Whatever you want to see on your screen, and I think it is not as important. The most important are the ones that I just described. And then talking about the graphics, there are some people that argue that setting the detail level a little bit lower will help you to see the enemies, and that is actually true. However, I do like to play the game on maximum settings, just because I do like the graphics, and that is one reason why I play World of Tanks. So I don't set the quality to a lower level just to improve my gameplay. Some things might help you However, as I said, I just do like the graphics a lot. One thing that I do use is I deselect the enhanced destruction physics, because sometimes if you, let's say if you destroy a building, then the destruction physics will hinder you to see the enemy, and that is a disadvantage. So this is what I have deselected, but as you can see on the rest, I pretty much use the ultra settings just to have a nice gameplay experience. And the last thing is the terrain tessellation in sniper mode. I deselected that just to give me a slight advantage in the sniper mode. Alright, those are the settings. The next topic is equipment, and with this little comparison here, I want to show you that in my opinion it makes much more sense to increase the strength of your tank rather than to decrease the disadvantages that you have on your tank. So for example, what do I mean? I've selected the Emil 1 twice, as you can see, and the Emil 1 does have a very low power to weight ratio. It only has 380 horsepower, as you can see here, so its power to weight ratio is only 13.19er. It is a very slow tank, besides the maximum speed, but it will most of the time never reach it if it doesn't go down slope. So the mobility is very bad on the Emil 1. Now you could argue to use a turbocharger to increase this weakness of the tank. If you do so, you get an additional 28.5 horsepower, so you increase your power to weight ratio to 14.1. That is not a very huge increase of your power to weight ratio, so you are only increasing your power to weight ratio a little bit if you are trying to decrease the weakness of this tank. Now next possibility is the Skoda T50. The Skoda T50 does have quite some engine power. As you can see, 1000 engine power, giving it a power to weight ratio of 26. And if you decide to use the turbocharger on the Skoda T50 and even in the first slot, then you get an additional 100 horsepower. So basically 3 times more than the increase of horsepower on the Emil 1. So this increases the power to weight ratio from 26 to 28.57, so almost 2.5 more power to weight ratio, and this is a good example where it makes sense to use a turbocharger. Other examples are, for example, the AMX 50B, which also does have quite some engine power, but on slow tanks, in my opinion, it does not make sense to use a turbocharger, because it's always more important to increase the strength of your tank than to decrease the weaknesses. Next example is the T150, the tier 6 Russian heavy tank, and Russian heavy tanks, especially at mid tiers, do have a very low, a very low view range. So as you can see here, only 330 meters view range. So if you just decide to use coated optics, that gives you a 10% increase, right? So your new view range is 363, only 33 meters gained from your coated optics. If you, for example, use the Centurion 7.1, it does have a very good view range. It has 410 meters of view range. So if you use coated optics, you get an additional 41 meters of view range. So 33 compared to 41, only because in this case you are once again increasing the strength rather than decreasing the weakness. So that is what I think is pretty important to understand if you are using equipment. Next thing about equipment that I think is important is if your crew does have brothers in arms, and every crew member does need to have this skill. So as you can see here, brothers in arms, that is how it looks like. This is brothers in arms, and it increases basically every value of your crew and thus of your tank. And if you use ventilation, improved ventilation, in conjunction with brothers in arms, this is basically a combination to increase the strength of your tank. So as you can see, a regular crew on a regular tank with a regular crew, not using brothers in arms with ventilation, your crew would have 100% on the commander and then 105% I think on the rest of the crew. But if you use this combination, you increase the strength of your commander to 111% and then to 122 on the rest, and you can further increase this if you would use premium consumables like in this case the Swedish thing here, no sorry, the Czech thing here. So if you apply this, then as you can see it would increase to 121 and then 133 on the rest of the crew. So this is a very, very powerful combination. And then on the rest of the equipment, it basically depends whether you're using premium consumables. I do not do this because I want to save money in the game in order to be able to grind the tanks and to purchase the tanks. But you always should have at least 445 meters of view range, so that is very important. So coated optics is super important. And then, as I said, I usually go for improved ventilation, but then on the third slot, it depends on the abilities of your tank. As you can see, the Skoda T50 is an autoloader. An autoloader cannot use the gun rammers, so in this case I am going with a vertical stabilizer to decrease or to improve the accuracy of the gun. But you could also go for improved rotation mechanism. That is very useful. And then in some cases, as I said, a turbocharger might be the way to go. I usually do not select the stationary equipment, which only activates if you're stationary, because I am constantly moving, not only with my light and medium tanks, but also with the heavy tanks and also with tank destroyers. However, in some tank destroyers, if you really want to concentrate on sniping, then this equipment might be the one for you. And besides this, on a normal tank, which is not an autoloader, so let's say the 122 TM, as you can see, I always go for a gun rammer because I want to increase the firepower of my tank. Having a high DPM, this is actually a bad example of high DPM, but increasing the DPM of your tank just gives you an advantage in outplaying your opponents in a 1v1 situation. So in my opinion, the classic standard, the best setup is classic setup, I wanted to say. So let's say on a Leopard, that's not a good example. Panther is a good example. I usually go with coated optics, with the gun rammer, and then with ventilation, because I think that this is basically the best combination that I can get. The next very important thing is, in order to improve your gameplay in World of Tanks, you need to have knowledge about the tanks, about their capabilities, about their statistics, and about the weak spots, about the armor profile, and so on and so forth. And I can really recommend Tanks GG in order to get that information. Tanks GG is a very nice website, and it gives you information about every tank in the game. So if you go to Tanks GG, as you can see here, you have basically every tank that is in the game in World of Tanks. So you have the full tank list where you can just select with different filters, let's say for example the Ferdinand, as you can see, and then you have all the statistics, the weaponry, mobility, and everything else. And you might know this from my videos that I refer to this page if I talk about the statistics of the tank. You can even compare tanks. So for example, if you want to compare, let's say, Tier 8 heavy tanks, and you want to compare the Carnarvon against the, let's say, a German Tier 8 heavy tank, for example the Tiger II, and then you have a nice comparison of those tanks. And you can even select the specific crew setup and also the specific equipment that you want to use on this tank. So for example, if you go here and then select, I play this tank with ventilation, and then with, let's say, gun rammer, and then with, let's say, coated optics, as I just said, you can select that, and you can also select the rest of the equipment. So for example, if you are playing with premium equipment right here, and then you can even select the crew skills that you have. So for example, as you can see now, Brothers in Arms is selected, and then let's say you have grinded Snapshot, and then let's say Safe Stowage. And so this gives you the exact value of your tank in comparison to another tank, and this even lets you compare one tank with different equipment. So let's say we want to compare this tank with this setup of the tank with let's say some other equipment. So let's say improved aiming device, and then improved hardening class 1, and then let's say vertical stabilizer. Just to compare it, we would also use putting in T, and then also select brothers in arms, because most of the time the crew is the same. So I think we had that selected, and then I think this one, and so you could instantaneously see the differences of your tank depending on which crew layout you have, or which skills your crew have, and also depending on the equipment that you are using. So this side is very, very helpful. And then there's one additional feature that is super helpful on Tanks GG, and that is the armor profile. So for example, if you click on the Carnarvon, you can first of all, no, sorry, that was wrong. You can go to modules, and then you have a depiction of every module that you can unlock, and like how what the sequence is. But then you can go to 3D model, and then you have a selection, or not a selection, depiction of the armor profile of your tank. Now, important is that you click on live, and then you can see the effective values of your armor depending on the gun depression of your tank, on the angle of your tank, and this is super helpful. So for example, if you would use the Carnarvon here, you can see that it does have a very strong turret. And then you can rotate the turret and use gun depression. So for example, select the gun like that, and then yeah, if you put the gun like that, then this would be the situation in which the Carnarvon is using its full 10 degrees of gun depression. And then you can see the effective armor of not only the turret, but also the hull. And as you can see, this is why this tank is so good. It is a hull down monster, and you can check this out on Tanks GG and see if there is a weak spot that the enemy could possibly hit. You can also check out if you can use side scraping on this tank, and if the side creates a ricochet angle or not, and how much you have to, or you can angle your tank to increase that ricochet angle and to not be penetrated. This is a very nice feature of Tanks GG. And then there's one last thing. You can even say, for example, let's say you are playing in a tier 9 heavy tank, and let's say you are playing in the Mäuschen, the German tier 9 tank. And once again, you select the live, right? And now lots of times you are playing in a tier 10 battle, and you know that yeah, your armor is let's say quite good. However, on tier 10 there are lots of people firing premium ammunition, and you can first of all select a different tank on the compare side, so you can compare to a tier 10 tank, let's say a tier 10 heavy tank like the, where is it, the US, no, tier 10, sorry, tier 10 T57 heavy tank. And this T57 tank would now not use its silver ammunition, but its premium ammunition, the heat one with 340 millimeters of penetration. And this changes obviously the armor profile of your tank. So this is very nice to know. So you cannot, or the one thing is to see the armor profile compared to a, let's say, a gun on your level, which is using silver ammunition. And then the other thing is to see your armor profile in comparison to a higher tier tank using premium ammunition. And this changes the situation, and very often in a battle people are not understanding that if there's a high tier tank and if he is using his gold ammunition, then this changes your armor quite significantly, or the situation whether your armor is good or not, quite significantly. So this is very useful, and you can find every piece of such situation, of such information, sorry, on Tanks GG. The next thing I would like to talk about is the tank class for beginners. So if you're a beginner in World of Tanks, which tank class is the best for you? And in my opinion, there are two tank classes that you should play. First of all, medium tanks or even light tanks. Why do I not recommend to play artillery and tank destroyers or heavy tanks? Because in my opinion, understanding how view range works, how armor works, and how trading works, and I made a video about this, about trading positively with the Cromwell tier 6 British tank. And I think it is crucial to understand those principles in the game. So in my opinion, you should understand how this works, and you will definitely get an understanding if you are playing medium tanks or light tanks that do not have any, or at least not as many armor as heavy tanks. And this is why I recommend to play medium tanks or light tanks. Now, the difference between light tanks and every other tank class in the game is light tanks do not lose their high camo value if they are moving. Every other tank class does have a separate camo value if they are standing still. This is the high camo value, and then a lower one if they are moving. Light tanks, however, always have the high camo value whether or not they are moving. So in my opinion, it even makes sense if your first tech tree line is a light line. So for example, this Soviet light line, this one here, via the A20, MT25, LTG, LTTB. However, for beginners, I do not recommend high tier, and I consider tier 8, tier 9 and tier 10 as being high tier. I recommend to play a medium tank line or maybe a light tank line up until tier 7, and to not go to the high tier too early, because the gaming experience is different. At the low tiers or the mid tiers, you will be able to make mistakes and not get punished for them right away. So in my opinion, you should concentrate on getting better at World of Tanks, let's say up until tier 7, and you should not play tier 8, tier 9 and especially tier 10 right away. So this is the recommendation that I have, and I think that lots of people are playing heavy tanks because they think that it is easy. However, yes, heavy tanks do have a better armor profile. However, every heavy tank does have first of all, its drawbacks. For example, slow mobility and a small or a low view range. Plus, most of the heavy tanks do have their weak spots, or weak spots of the armor profile. And most of the players, especially at high tiers, have the knowledge and understand where those weak spots are, so your armor profile is not working against experienced players. And so why would you select a heavy tank where your armor profile does not really work, rather than selecting a medium tank with high firepower and high mobility, and or let's say a light tank where you can learn how to not expose yourself, and where the gaming experience is just so much more convenient for you because you have a better mobility, because you have an accurate gun, and sometimes you even have a better firepower, meaning a better DPM than heavy tanks. So this is what I would recommend for you to do if you are a beginner. The next question for beginners is: there are so many tanks and so many tech trees that I can grind in World of Tanks, so which one is good for a beginner? And I made a separate video about this that you can check out on my channel. The ones that I recommend for a beginner are, besides light tanks, and I recommend the light tanks, or as light tanks I recommend the Russian and the German light tanks, because I think that the tier 4 German light tank as well as the tier 5 is super nice. But besides that, if you want to go for a medium tank, I recommend the Russian medium tank line, this one right here, that leads to the Object 430U and also the Object 140. I also recommend the Swedish one, because they are all super nice tanks up until the Judas 15-16. But you can also then go to the Swedish heavy tanks, and then I also recommend the Italian one, which is super nice to play. There is not a single bad tank in this tech tree, and then you also have the chance of going to the Italian heavy tanks, and I made a video about every single tank of those Italian heavy tanks. So feel free to check it out, and I think it can be super useful. But those tech trees are, in my opinion, the best ones in World of Tanks, especially for beginners. The next question is, how can you grind stock tanks? And World of Tanks offers a very nice feature. So for example, here with my Panther, I can click on this little button here, add to comparison. And then it is in the comparison list. And if you don't have the tank in your garage yet, if you haven't purchased the tank yet, then you can go to the tech tree and let's, for example, select the Pershing. And then you can click on the same icon right here, so add to comparison list, and then it is in your comparison list. So if you click here and then to compare in this case, and then you have the configuration bar, I would call it, right here. So click on configure, and now you can use all this little depiction here in order to see how you can increase or how you can add the modules to your tank. So if you click here, then you have a very nice depiction, and I would all the time increase the firepower first, so going for the top gun first, then increase the armor or the view range, which is most of the time the turret, and then go for the mobility, so increase the engine, and thereafter I would go with the rest, being the tracks and the radio. The radio is pretty much useless, so this is what I always update as the latest thing. However, the biggest problem is that sometimes you need your new tracks, the updated tracks, in order to incorporate the rest of the equipment. So what do I mean? If you, for example, go to the second gun here, you can see that you can upgrade it, no problem. You can even upgrade the next gun, and then you can also upgrade the high tier or the best gun that you have available on the Pershing. However, if you go to the next turret, as you can see, the depiction shows you that you have to update the tracks first before you will be able to update the turret. So in this case, after the gun, you need to upgrade the tracks in order to being able to upgrade the turret. This is super important to know, because it is super painful if you have unlocked let's say the highest gun, and thereafter you updated or you used your free experience or your experience earned for the turret. However, you cannot mount it because you need to mount the tracks first. So this is a very helpful depiction on seeing how the upgrading sequence is working on your particular tank. Now, one word of caution. Let's close this right here. One word of caution: your equipment also has a certain weight. So, for example, if we are using ventilation and then gun rammer and then coated optics, like the standard setup, and then it is possible on some tanks, maybe not on the Pershing, but on some tanks, that you have to use the tracks earlier, because the whole equipment also comes to a little weight, or has a little weight. So in this case, it looks like there is no difference. However, on some tanks there is, so keep that in mind, and always also select equipment, because as I said, it also does have a weight. So for example, maybe there's a difference if we use the improved hardening, because this is, I think, has the highest weight. If we click on, if we click on equipment right now, no, in this case it still works, but actually, as you can see, in this case you can equip the tank with a high alpha gun and then with the turret, and in this case you would not need the upgraded tracks. So anyways, you got the point. Always try to, or before you unlock equipment, go to this feature and check out if you are able to mount the equipment or the thing, the unlocked item that you want to mount on your tank. Now, upgrading a stock tank or playing a stock tank is super painful. So I recommend that you use your premium days that you have received in World of Tanks in order to play your stock tanks, because with the additional experience that you gain if you are using your a premium account, it can really decrease the time you have to play your tank as a stock tank significantly. So I do recommend to use the premium time in order to grind through your stock tanks and make this a less painful experience. I think the worst experience that I had playing a stock tank was the Leopard PTA. I think that the Leopard PTA is a super strong tier 9 tank. However, the Leopard PTA being a stock tank was super painful. The tier 8 gun is not competitive. The tank was sluggish. The engine power was not enough. As you can see, from 670 horsepower, it increases up to 800, so quite significantly. So the firepower was not good. The view range was a little less. However, this one is actually pretty nice, 390 on tier 9, even in a stock tank. However, the stock experience on the Leopard PTA was super bad, and so I really I went to the path on reducing the time of playing stock tanks as much as possible, and I always use a premium account to do that. As you can see, I'm basically a free-to-play player, but there are options to get free World of Tanks premium days, just as an offer by Wargaming. And if you go to the Combat Intelligence section, you can see that there are multiple ways. There are always missions. So first of all, you can even get premium days on your daily missions. So sometimes there is a day of premium account that you can get with your missions. You just have to fulfill the missions, and then sooner or later you will get a day of premium account. And you can go to the missions section to check out basically every mission that you can accomplish. And as you can see, there are tons of equipment that you can use, and as I said, sometimes there is even a day of premium account that you can get. But there are also some special missions, and you can go to Combat Intelligence, and then you can see, for example, this one here: follow the Brawl Club and earn Twitch drops. So if you now go to this website, then on this website you can see that in this case, yes, it is in German, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. This website basically tells you that with just watching Twitch, you can receive equipment, and also in this case 1 day of premium account just by watching Twitch. And then you here you get the link on which streams actually offer those Twitch drops. You have to connect your World of Tanks account to the Twitch account, and then just by watching Twitch, in this case, you can get all this kind of equipment, and then even a day of premium account in World of Tanks. Another possibility is the Panther Diploma. Once again, this page is also in German, but you can also check this out in English if you are living in an English-speaking country. And then you can see, just by playing those missions, by fulfilling those missions, you can get tons of equipment from Wargaming, and you can use this equipment either to use it in your tank or to sell this equipment, and then to have money and credits in order to buy the equipment that you need, and also the tanks that you just have unlocked in the game. So my recommendation all in all is accomplish missions. With those accomplished missions, you will get even premium days, and if you have a premium day, use this premium day in order to grind through your stock tank. The only other possibility is if you want to make money, and we'll talk about this right now. So the other possibility using a day of premium account is to grind credits, and I also made a video about this. It's called earning credits like a boss, I think. You can check it out on my channel. In this video I showed you how to grind credits during the holiday off season, but even without the holiday off season, you can use your premium day to grind credits. And for this, obviously, you need a premium tank. You need a day of premium account, and then you can use your personal reserves in order to increase your income. And here you have those reserves plus 50% for 1 hour to credits earned in battle. So if I have a premium day or day of premium account, and if I don't have to grind a stock tank, then I am always going to play my premium tanks, and I select this reserve in order to make more money. And then in one battle you will be able to earn, let's say, 100,000 credits just in one game. So super much, or not super much, much more than in a standard battle without a premium day. So those are the recommendations I have for you. Use the premium account to grind through your stock tanks, or if you have a premium tank, then use the premium tank in conjunction with the reserves, with your personal reserves, in order to just make credits in the game, so that you have enough credits to actually purchase the tanks that you have unlocked. Another important aspect in order to earn credits, I would say, is to sell all the equipment that you don't need anymore. And this also goes for tanks. So for example, if I grind my tech tree, let's say the British one, I'm just grinding the British tech tree. And for example, if I am playing the Cavalier and then I go to the Cromwell, I will immediately sell the Cavalier, the tier 5 tank, because I don't like the tank, and I will definitely not continue to play this tank. So I will sell it in order to get the at least some of the credits that I used for the tank back, in order to then use those credits to purchase the next tank. For example, I still have the Cromwell in my garage, I still have the Comet in my garage. I'm currently now playing the Centurion 1, but once I have unlocked the Centurion 7-1, I will sell the Centurion 1. Why so? Well, because in my case, I do have the British premium tank, the Centurion 5-1, so I will rather play with this tank on tier 8 than with the regular Tech Tree Centurion. So I will sell the Tech Tree Centurion in order to have more credits to buy the tier 9 Centurion. And so my recommendation is, keep the interesting tanks in your garage. With the new update with Crew 2.0, you will have the chance to use one crew for separate tanks. So this will even make this strategy much more interesting. But if you have tanks in your garage that you are not using anymore, and that you don't like, and that you never play, just sell those tanks, because then you will have more money in order to purchase the tanks that you have unlocked. Then there's the depot. So in the depot, as you can see, there are, first of all, there's old equipment that you have used on other tanks that you have maybe sold, that you are not using anymore. And if you sell all this equipment, then you get an additional credits. And sometimes if you've never sold any of your, let's say, old equipment or old things in your depot, you can really, like, some people have millions of credits in their depot. And this goes for equipment, this goes for modules, this goes for shells, and this also goes for consumables. So me personally, I always use the standard equipment, the manual fire extinguisher, the manual repair kit, the small repair kit, sorry, and the small first aid kit. So I'm going to sell all the rest of the premium equipment. I'm even going to sell the automatic fire extinguisher. The only time I use the automatic fire extinguisher is on some tier 10 tanks. But for the rest, I can sell this. And as you can see, I have 113 automatic fire extinguishers. So I could make, let's say, if I would sell 100 of them, I would make 100 times 10,000 credits. And this credits, I can use those credits in order to purchase the tanks that I want and that I have grinded in the tech trees. One other tip that I have for you is in order to make credits, you can use the Frontline season. Frontline season is basically during a couple of weeks during the year, and this frontline match is a super nice possibility to earn credits. Why so? Well, because it is a huge tier 8 battle. You will never encounter tier 9 or tier 10 tanks with your tier 8 tank. It's a pure tier 8 battle, and so if you're using a premium tank during frontline, and if you use your premium reserve, your personal reserve that I just talked about, and especially if you use 1 day of premium account during frontline, you can really make tons of credits during frontline. So this is one thing that I really do recommend to do. Now, the other advantage of frontline is, as you are only in a tier 8 battle, you don't have to use hardly any premium ammunition, so you can concentrate on using your silver ammunition, your standard regular ammunition, and so you will make credits. You will earn credits like a boss during the frontline season. So I really recommend to play frontline. Maybe it's not your favorite game mode, but it is a super nice opportunity to make credits in World of Tanks, and I think every free-to-play player does have the need to get credits in order to purchase all the tech tree tanks. The next thing I would like to talk about is crews and the crew skills. So which crew skills are super important? Well, first of all, we have to talk about Sixth Sense. On your commander, you can always activate Sixth Sense. This is super important. Now with Crew 2.0, this will change. Every crew after Crew 2.0 will have Sixth Sense, so you will not have to grind this anymore. But then there are obviously other very important crew skills, which are first of all Brothers in Arms, not Band of Brothers, Brothers in Arms. Super helpful. We already talked about that. And then for light tank, the most important ones are, as you can see, the concealment skill, because after all, World of Tanks is a game in which view range is the most important thing. After all, if you are not spotted, then the enemy will not have a chance to shoot at you, besides blind firing, but that is a different story. So concealment is super important, especially for light tanks. Now, as different classes of tanks do have different camo values, also the view range is what differs depending on the tank class. So for light tanks, concealment is the most important thing. For medium tanks, concealment is also super important. For heavy tanks, concealment, however, is not very important, because the camo value on heavy tanks is super bad anyways. And as every skill only gives you a percentage or a relative increase of your skill, this means that like increasing the camo value by, let's say, 5% on your heavy tank does not make any difference. Then your heavy tank might have a camo value of, let's say, 12% instead of 10%. However, on a medium tank, having let's say 15% stock, and then with your concealment skill, you will bump this up to, let's say, 20%. This really makes a difference, and obviously the biggest difference is if you are playing a light tank, because the stock concealment value is just so big on also huge on light tanks. Alright, so besides this, repairs is super important. Repairs is especially important in a heavy tank, because most of the medium tanks and light tank players will try to track you, and so obviously you will have to wait quite some time if you have used your repair kit in order to repair your tracks. So repairs is super useful, especially for heavy tanks, but also for every other tank class, also light tanks and also medium tanks. And then, as you can see, the additional view range skills are super important. Recon, and then the other one is, let's see, other one is no, this one. The other one is, it's on the commander. Yeah, the other one is situational awareness, and as you can see, I made a mistake, because you should go for situational awareness first, because it gives you 3% additional view range, and then this gives you 2%, so I made a mistake here, too bad. But yeah, this is super helpful. And then, as you can see on my medium tanks, basically my standard setup is, let's see, for example, on my Centurion 1, while grinding 6 cents on the commander, I go for the gun handling skills and maybe the view range skills. So for example, here situational awareness is on the loader. So I go with 6 cents and the gun handling skills, and where it is possible, the view range skills. Thereafter, I level up Brothers in Arms on every crew member, and thereafter I go with repairs, or you could also go with concealment. But this is, I think, a very typical skill setup that you should grind. Overall, arriving at the high tier, you should be working on your 3rd skill at least. And if you're playing tier 10 tanks, you should have your 4th crew skill, or maybe your 3rd crew skill, fully completed. Because having a bad crew in high tier games is just a tremendous disadvantage. So I don't recommend that. Yeah, so and yeah, one additional thing is you should stay on a certain tank just to increase your skills and to further develop your skills prior to going to the next level and to the next tank. So if you have a nice tier 6 tank, so for example the Comet on tier, not the Comet, the Cromwell on tier 6. Just stay on the tier 6 tank until you have reached, let's say, the 2nd skill or maybe the 3rd skill. And if you've completed those skills, then go to the next tank. Because if you're grinding too fast, that will result in having a bad crew at a high tier tank. And this is just a super disadvantage in the game. So rather stay on a nice tank level. Keep playing this tank, keep increasing and improving the crew. And if you have a good crew, then go to the next step and the high tier game, because it just makes so much more sense to have a good crew on a high tier tank. One additional thing I would like to mention when it comes to the camo value is you should always, at least on your tank destroyer, on your light tank and on your medium tank, you should always use camouflage. Now, as you can see, I only use camouflage, at least on most of the tanks, I only use camouflage on the hull, not on the turret and not on the gun. Why so? Well, because that is the only thing that counts when it comes to your camo value, that you can, to your concealment value that you can see here. This is what I just talked about. The light tank does have the same stationary concealment value as when it is moving. That is different if you take a medium tank, for example the Char Futur, as you can see here, and then let's use the AMX, the light tank, once again. If you don't have a camouflage, so let's deselect the camo value, hit apply, then you can see that your concealment value is, yeah, I would say significantly lower. So always use a camouflage on your tank destroyer, medium tank, and especially on light tanks. Yeah, let's use it once again here. Hit apply, and as you can see, we just increase the concealment value by actually 3.3%, so from 34 up to 37. So yeah, always use camouflage on those tanks. Another thing I want to talk about is the ammunition that you can carry with you. There are several kinds of different ammunition. The standard ammunition is armor piercing for the standard ammunition. This is the silver ammunition, as I call it. Then you have the premium ammunition, which is usually APCR, armor piercing composite rigid. And then usually as the third ammunition, you have high explosive. And there are differences that you have to understand in order to understand the destruction mechanics and how it works. So With armor piercing and with APCR, you can fire through buildings, through fences, and so on and so forth. And you will still make damage if, for example, a tank is hiding behind a wall. But that does not apply for HE, so for high explosive, and also for heat ammunition. So, for example, the tier 10 Italian heavy tank, the Rhinoceronte. Once again, I have to say I really do like this tank. I made a video on it that you can check out. It's a really great tank. It is balanced, however. Yeah, let's go back to the topic. So it does have APCR as the silver ammunition, and then it does have heat, high explosive, anti-tank as the premium ammunition. So as I said, with heat and also with HE, you will not be able to penetrate walls and make damage on a tank that is hiding behind the wall. So that is what you have to know, because sometimes you just load HE or maybe your premium ammunition, and if your premium ammunition is then the heat ammo, then you wonder why you do not make any damage. So this is what you have to keep in mind. Plus, HE and heat ammunition will not make damage if you hit spaced armor. So for example, lots of Russian heavy tanks. Let's see, or is that a good example? Or let's use the German tanks. So where do I have it? The Panzer IV. Or let's use this Stuck 4 here. The Stuck 4, as you can see, does have spaced armor here. So if you use HE and shoot to the side of it, you will not make any damage because your ammunition will explode without having penetrated the actual armor of the tank. So all in all, think about the ammunition that you have available, and think about the yeah, what is it called? Think about the differences of the ammunition before you employ a certain type of ammo, because otherwise you will wonder why you did not make any damage, and it just has a reason that you maybe have never thought about. Alright guys, that was it for today. I hope this video helps you out. If you have other tips and tricks, just leave a comment in the comment section below. If you're interested in some other topics, feel free to give me a hint and I will try to make another video. I hope that this guide will help out all the new players out there. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. Consider subscribing to my channel, and I see you next time in another World of Tanks video.